Adding and plotting enemies. First, the beam move function needs to be called in the beginning of the move function because it needs to be before the counter. Otherwise it's affected by two counters, the ship counter and the beam counter. Okay, so let's go to the ship beams class and add a console base, and in the plot function we set the color to yellow for the beam. All beams will be yellow. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, white ship, yellow beams. Great, excellent. Now, let's add a new file. We need a new base class for the enemies. So let's add an enemy base. Okay. Alright, that needs to inherit the object base that we made previously for the ship, which holds for now just the coordinates. The constructor needs an X and Y and a console color. And we will send the X and Y to the base object base by adding a new coord entity. And then we need a private color variable. Okay, and then we'll set the underscore color to the color. Okay, perfect. All right, so what else? We need a protected string array for the sprite. The idea of having an enemy base is that we'll have three different enemies, which I will show you soon. Okay, so the enemy base needs a plot function, that plot function is very similar to the ship's plot function. Let's copy that. We could put the plot function in the object base, but later on we need plot functions for other objects, such as a UFO that will also use the object base. That is why we cannot do that. Okay, same thing with the constants for the height and width of the sprite. Similar to the ship right now, 3 and 7, but we need to have them in their own classes for now, because the UFO has a different size. Okay, here I've created a new file again called enemy1. The enemy1 file takes an X and a Y and a color. And all of them are, okay, we need to inherit the enemy base, of course, and then we call the base class constructor and send the X and Y color, X, Y, and color. And in here we set the sprite variable that we had in the enemy base to a new string of 3 and 3 empty strings for now. And then we go to the jars that I have in the other text file, and in there I have created and designed 3 monster types. Here we go. The first row is the first one of the 3, and the second row is the animations that I want to do, which we will address later. So let's start copying the first one into the enemy1 object. There we go. Okay, done. That is the first sprite. Let's create the second enemy, enemy2.cs, which will be exactly similar as the first one, except for the sprite. Let's copy the second one. You can of course design your own if you want to copy this idea and do your own thing. And you might have more than 2 objects to animate between if you would like. Okay. That is our second enemy object. Of course, we need to change the name to enemy2. Alright, That's it. Time for a new file, enemy3. Same thing again. Let's copy the structure from the other ones, from one of the others, change it to enemy3. And then copy the enemy chars into the string array. Okay, we're done. Enemy3, of course. Alright, now we need an enemies file, similar to the ship beams that holds a list, generic list of the beams. We have an enemies class that contains a generic list of the enemies. So the list consists of enemy base objects, which will be enemy 1, 2, and 3 objects. In the constructor, we make an instance of the enemies, and then we create a plot function. Let's also create a private add enemies method. We call the add enemies from the constructor, and then we add an enemy, a new enemy 1. We need an X and Y. Let's take 10 and 10 and set the color to green. Okay. Let's add the other types as well right away. 2 more lines, enemy 2 and 3. Then we need other coordinates. Let's take 10, 15 and 20. Okay. In the plot function now, we loop over the generic list enemies, and for each object we just do enemy plots. Alright, back to the game object. We now need to call the enemy plot function, enemies plot. We need an instance of the enemies object. Okay, declaration, and then there's the function called the plot, and now we need an instance in the game constructor, the enemies object. Okay, it's building, and there we go. Look, the 3 different objects, enemy objects that we wanted. Perfect. Okay, let's add more. They need to be they need different colors. Let's set yellow, green, yellow, and red. And then we want 6 of each. So we set them in a loop between 0 and less than 7. And we want, 6 of each, and then we want it to be, less than 6, since we loop between 0 and 5, that will be 6. We need an x variable, which will be I times 8, which is the width of the enemy plus 1 space. Okay, and the y positions will be 7, and then increased by 4 for each row, and we want to have 6 rows of enemies. Enemy 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And then new colors for the new objects. Let's select blue, cyan, and magenta. Okay. Plus 5, 23, and 27. Okay. And then just set the x value to I times 8. Okay, perfect. That should be it, really. And there we have it. 6 times 6 enemies in different colors. Perfect.